The Earth's climate has always changed. Throughout the Earth's 4.5 billion year history, its climate has undergone significant changes. However, the current rapid warming cannot be attributed to natural cycles of warming and cooling. The shifts that typically occur over hundreds of thousands of years are now happening within decades. Global temperatures are currently the highest on record. Since 1880, the 10 warmest years on Earth have all occurred after 2014. When discussing climate change today, it refers to anthropogenic, human-caused climate change. This is the warming of Earth's average temperature due to human activities such as burning fossil fuels, coal, oil, and gas, for energy in homes, transportation, and deforestation for agriculture. Global warming isn't real as it's still cold. Global warming is increasing the Earth's average surface temperature, leading to significant alterations in natural climate systems. These changes are amplifying the likelihood and intensity of various extreme weather phenomena, including more severe droughts, heat waves, hurricanes, and surprisingly, an increased potential for more extreme cold events. It's crucial to distinguish between weather and climate. Weather denotes short-term atmospheric conditions like temperature, precipitation, and cloud cover, whereas climate refers to long-term patterns in atmospheric conditions over extended periods. Short-term weather fluctuations will persist, which means occasional cold spells can still occur despite overall global warming. Additionally, natural seasonal variations will continue as the Earth orbits the Sun, maintaining the distinction between cooler winters and warmer summers, despite the overall temperature rise compared to a century ago. As a consequence of our geographical location, regions like the UK and Ireland may experience heightened wind and rainfall due to climate change, whereas locations such as New York might see increased snowfall. The intricate interplay of factors within the Earth's climate system renders both hot and cold extreme weather events more erratic and impactful. Heat waves and wildfires have nothing to do with climate change. Climate change exacerbates the frequency and intensity of extreme weather events, such as heat waves, wildfires, and floods. Data indicates a notable increase in severe heat waves since the 1950s, largely driven by human-induced climate change. As global temperatures rise, these extremes continue to escalate. Warmer and drier conditions resulting from climate change provide more fuel for wildfires, even when sparked by human activities. Lower relative humidity and drier vegetation facilitate faster and wider fire spread. Moreover, prolonged droughts and higher temperatures are extending the global wildfire season. Wildfires present immediate threats to human and animal lives, causing substantial damage to soil, vegetation, and entire ecosystems. The smoke and ash they produce pollute air, water, and land. China is mostly responsible for climate change. Human-induced climate change has been ongoing for many years, with Western countries such as the UK significantly contributing to carbon emissions over the past 2 centuries. Simply identifying current top emitters of greenhouse gases oversimplifies this complex issue. Many products purchased in the UK are manufactured in countries like China, effectively transferring a substantial portion of emissions to the nations responsible for producing these goods. The demand for products from highly industrialized countries, including the UK, contributes significantly to their elevated emissions levels. Despite being among the largest current emitters of greenhouse gases due to its size, China has lower emissions per capita compared to countries like the United States. Moreover, China has made substantial investments in renewable energy. These investments are driven by the rapid expansion of green industries, increasing demand for renewable energy, and efforts to mitigate air pollution in major urban centers. Plants need carbon dioxide. Plants require carbon dioxide, CO2, for their survival. They play a crucial role in removing substantial amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere annually. However, the capacity of plants to absorb CO2 is diminishing due to widespread deforestation worldwide, primarily driven by agricultural activities to produce food. It's important to note that CO2 itself is not inherently problematic and is a natural component of the global ecosystem. The issue lies in the unprecedented quantity of CO2 being emitted by human activities. Levels of CO2 in the atmosphere today have not been observed in at least 3 million years. Animals will adapt to climate change. This isn't entirely a myth. Darwin was correct about adaptation. However, it's important to recognize that not all plants and animals will successfully adapt. Facing climate change, plants, animals, and birds have 2 main survival strategies: migration or adaptation. There are documented cases of some species beginning to adapt to changing climates. However, for many species, the rapid pace of climate change presents a significant challenge. Habitats are being disrupted by human infrastructure like roads, cities, and dams, making migration increasingly difficult. For those unable to migrate or adapt quickly enough, the outlook is bleak. Polar bear numbers are increasing. This is not true. The greatest threat facing polar bears today is climate change. The Arctic region is warming approximately 4 times faster than the global average, causing sea ice to melt earlier in the year and form later. This change makes it increasingly challenging for female polar bears to access land in late autumn to construct their dens, and it hinders their ability to reach the sea ice in spring to hunt seals for their cubs. Seals, which are the primary prey of polar bears, are also impacted by climate change because they rely on sea ice for breeding and raising their young. As a result, polar bears in some Arctic regions are facing reduced access to their traditional food sources compared to previous years. Experts predict that polar bear populations could decline by as much as 30% by the middle of this century due to these environmental changes. Renewable energy is more expensive. The idea that renewable energy is costly is simply untrue. Solar and wind power are the most economical methods of generating electricity, making their energy production cheaper than nuclear power, gas, and other fossil fuels. Some analyses indicate that renewable energy can be as much as 9 times cheaper than gas. The cost of renewables has dropped more rapidly than anticipated, yet the UK government continues to support polluting fossil fuels. Currently, people are grappling with significant increases in energy and food prices. This surge is primarily driven by the cost of fossil fuels, compounded by crop failures worldwide due to climate change-induced droughts and floods. Addressing climate change and resolving the cost of living crisis are intertwined. Both issues share the same underlying cause: dependence on costly and environmentally harmful fossil fuels, which means they also share the same solution. Renewable energy can only work when it's not cloudy or windy. The energy sector is advancing with innovations in electricity storage and demand management, ensuring reliability even when sunlight is scarce or wind speeds are low. These developments allow for sustained reliance on renewable energy sources throughout fluctuations in weather conditions. In the UK, most households receive their electricity from the national grid. When consumers switch to a green energy provider, they commit to ensuring that every unit of electricity drawn from the grid is matched by an equivalent amount of clean energy injected back into the system. This shift contributes significantly to the cleanliness of our energy supply and reduces reliance on fossil fuels. Moreover, the transition to renewable energy not only addresses environmental concerns, but also enhances energy security by diversifying our sources of power. This resilience is crucial in mitigating the impacts of volatile fossil fuel prices and geopolitical uncertainties associated with traditional energy sources. Technological advancements in renewable energy storage, such as battery systems and smart grids, are pivotal in optimizing energy usage and minimizing wastage. These innovations empower consumers to participate actively in energy conservation efforts and reduce their carbon footprints. Ultimately, embracing clean energy solutions not only supports global efforts to combat climate change, but also fosters a more sustainable and economically viable energy landscape for future generations. Climate change is a future problem. There is no longer any justification for inaction on climate change, as it shifts the responsibility of addressing the climate crisis onto future generations. We are already witnessing profound impacts on global food security, migration patterns, conflicts, disease spread, and overall global stability, which will escalate if immediate action is not taken. Human-induced climate change stands as the paramount crisis of our era, imperiling the very planet essential for our existence, and we are the final generation capable of taking effective measures. In 2015, 196 nations committed to the Paris Agreement, pledging collective efforts to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. The United Kingdom has set ambitious targets to reduce carbon emissions by 68% by 2030 and achieve net zero emissions by 2050. Achieving these goals requires urgent and decisive action. Therefore, the imperative to act now is clear. Delaying action on climate change jeopardizes not only our environment, but also the well-being and future prospects of generations to come. Now that we've addressed the myths surrounding climate change, let's turn our attention to another important topic: debunking first aid myths. It's crucial to understand correct procedures and dispel misconceptions to ensure effective and reliable emergency response. Join us as we explore common misconceptions about first aid in our next video.